Today on the Region Free Gamers podcast, we're keeping things firmly 2D with Vanillaware.
Welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast fluent in gaming. I am your host, Kelly Branford, and you can consider me today the Princess Crown upgraded with HD graphics. With me today, I have Paul, the Princess Crown, with an epic storyline. How are you doing today, Paul?
Oh, I'm doing great. I get to be a princess and I have a crown.
Yeah, and you have an awesome storyline. So
sweet.
So what does that leave me?
We expect to hear all about it. Well, also, of course, Arnie, we can't forget about you. You are the Princess Crown with fluent gameplay. Arnie, how are you doing today?
Right. I'm feeling great now. Fuck. I'm not janky like Paul. I'm not like stuttering every time I try to move.
Without the storyline to hold it all together, though, you're just a bunch of mechanics, right?
Yeah, like fighting games.
Touche!
Well, I think we all just have to come together to make an extremely awesome game, right?
That's right.
So,
with our powers combined.
The gameplay. With our powers combined, we are
a chibi
Sentinels?
little princess person.
Yeah, but today, before we do get started in what is going to be like an episode I've been wanting to do for a really long time, as this is one of my favorite developers. I love all their games. But before we get started, we want to give a big shout out to all of you, our listeners. Thank you for tuning into the show. We enjoy talking about games, so we're glad you enjoy listening, hearing us ramble on about our favorite games at all time. And also, we want to give a big shout out to our patrons. Thank you guys for supporting us on the podcast. And we also love hearing all the conversations on our Discord. So many different interesting conversations and arguments and just everything. It certainly is a blast. And if you are not on our Discord, you should definitely join because we have just so much fun there.
I couldn't agree more.
Hell yeah. Also, we are currently competing to see who can complete the most games in a year.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition.
Why does this keep happening?
You've
gone now from bashing Europeans
will get
to
3 Ethereum and 2 NBA Top Shots directly from me.
And $200 million worth of NFTs? What?
That's right. The stolen NFTs. I stole them all.
Oh man, that couldn't have been funnier. I'm still waiting to see what the fallout is on that NFT, $200 million loss or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's whenever I see that news, I'm always like, I'm gonna wait until like Reuters reports it or BBC reports it, and then it's like, okay, now it's a little bit more legitimate.
Wait. Did you say Reuters report?
Is it Reuters?
Yeah.
Oh,
Reuters,
funny.
Well, it's funny because I used to see it written all the time, and I was like, oh, it's Reuters report. Like it's that's how you say it. And then I heard somebody say it, and I was like, fuck you. Like, does that ever happen to you? Like, you read a book or something and you are like, this is how this is pronounced, and then you see like the movie or TV adaptation and it's like not at all what you thought it was.
Oh, dude, the other day I tried to use the word panacea, or panacea, and then I look at Christy and I'm like, you know what? I've never used this word before. I have no idea how to pronounce this. I've read it a million times. And she looks at me and she's like, yeah, I have no idea. Like, what is it? Is it panacea? It's got to be panacea, right?
Yeah, it's panacea, I believe. I believe that's correct.
He said with certainty.
That's how I've been pronouncing it. If we just vote.
Okay, because you use it every day, right?
Every time I walk in the kitchen and I want some ibuprofen, I'm like, give me some of that headache panacea, please.
I do that
Kelly,
I do that all the time. When I was young, I was reading way above my reading level, so I would see words in print long before I ever. So sequel, I would pronounce squeal because I would. Sequel. I had no idea, and I was made fun of for that. But It's like I knew what all these words meant, but I had no idea how to pronounce them.
Oh, I'm sorry. So. You didn't know how to pronounce tetralogy when you were like 7?
Yeah.
What a shame.
What the fuck?
All right, so today we are delving into the history of Vanillaware. Vanillaware, basically as a company that we've talked about on these podcasts before goes, this one's relatively new. Yeah. It was founded by George Kamitani almost 20 years ago in 2002 under the name Puragura. George Kamitani was a longtime vet in the video game industry. He previously worked on beat-em-ups at Capcom, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom being one that we will come back to later because it was a big influence on him. And then after he worked at Capcom, he went to an unnamed company where he developed Princess Crown. And Princess Crown, while it's not technically a Vanillaware game, it wasn't made under that studio.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important title when we're talking about Vanillaware for sure.
And just looking at it, it's Vanillaware. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Princess Crown is the ground zero for that whole situation.
Big shout out to the name Vanillaware. 1, awesome name. 2, vanilla representation. People disrespect vanilla all the time as a flavor, as an ice cream. Fuck y'all, I love vanilla, so I love Vanillaware. I'm already like, you got me. You've reeled me in with this concept. Now,
why on earth would I ever have vanilla when there are hundreds, nay, thousands of other flavors out there? This is ridiculous. Hey, Arnie, would you like some ice? So would you like some water?
Yes, I would. I would love a refreshing glass of water.
Water is excellent, actually, but I do agree.
And I would love a nice scoop of pure French bean vanilla ice cream. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, Chris Coplian of the Retro Hangover podcast, our buddy, he's in chat and he says vanilla is better than chocolate. I don't know.
Vanilla can be better in chocolate in some things. Like if I'm doing a root beer float. Sure, I'll do vanilla.
Yes.
Vanilla milkshake all day over chocolate milkshake.
Oh, no, chocolate milkshake. Sorry.
Cookies and cream, though. Come on
now. Cookie dough. Yeah, I mean, put some cookie dough in that vanilla ice cream.
Dude, cookie dough all day long.
That's right.
Let me tell you, though, Vanillaware, it's funny you shout out Vanillaware as the title of the company. You know, one of the reasons Kamitani chose it was because, A, he loves vanilla. So, I mean, I love Kamitani.
He's a man of the people.
It just goes to show nobody's perfect. This is a truism, but anyway. And the other reason is because he finds vanilla to be such a stable flavor, and he wanted to have that kind of stability with his video game development house.
And as we all know, that's exactly what happened.
Yes,
we never had any problems.
No, it was all sunshine and roses right from the beginning. Or
oh my God,
maybe
so
not.
Great.
So we have to start talking with Princess Crown, of course. Yes. So Princess Crown was developed at a company started development at a company that was not really named. I could not find a name for it on the internet, but he started with a friend, basically. And this company was known for making adult games in the past.
Oh, good. Maybe that's why you couldn't find a name for it.
It could be.
Maybe, yeah.
Could be. But Princess Crown...
They hand their business card to somebody. It's just a censor bar on it. It's like, oh, here we are.
Maybe. But originally it was supposed to be a simulation game where you were playing a female character, raising her up, and getting multiple endings depending on the choices you made. So it was a princess raising game. But this was pitched to Sega, who said, absolutely not. We want an action RPG for our thriving Sega Saturn system. So,
wiping away the tears from his eyes.
Yes.
It's actually, it's legitimately dust. But your point is taken. Also, the Saturn wasn't that much of a bomb in Japan. North America and Europe, to a lesser extent, completely flubbed it. But in Japan, it was I don't know, it was pretty legit. I mean, obviously, it wasn't fucking PlayStation. Let's not kid ourselves. But,
Well, I mean...
Where else am I gonna play X-Men versus Street Fighter?
It was successful enough that they went to Sega, and Sega said, no, change it, and they did to get it on the system. So
exactly.
I guess we'll call that a positive for the Sega Saturn. So it became a 2D action RPG Development began in 1995, but the company went bankrupt the following year. And this is going to be something we're going to see a pattern of happening.
You know
They're
what?
like cockroaches, though. They never go away.
So they decided to pitch this game directly to Sega to get funding, but they were turned down due to the fact that Sega was in negotiations for a possible merger with Bandai.
Let's talk about the good timeline that we don't live in.
Seriously, can you imagine that? Oh my.
That's right.
Sega
Let's
Bandai.
talk about the future where Sonic definitely pilots a Gundam.
Well, I mean, it's great. Like, instead of ruining themselves, they could just have Bandai ruin Sega for them.
That's right. There you go.
True.
Yeah.
True.
all the beautiful Bandai arcades you would have seen when you went to Japan.
Why is that so wrong? It just is.
I'm just thinking of all the crossovers, like the anime crossovers with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Can you imagine if like the female love interest in Sonic 06 was just like the lead character from like Tales of Fantasia or something? It was like, oh, sweet crossover.
It would be better, at least. It was, I mean, slightly less creepy? I'm not sure. Would that be more or less creepy? So that was turned down, of course, and they went to Atlas. Atlas decided they would fund the project, and they hired the entire staff. They developed it at Atlas Kunasai, and Sega published the game. Ended up that there was a lot of influence on Princess Crown with the illustrations from Alice in Wonderland books. So if you take a look at that, and honestly, I can see that influence even throughout all of Vanillaware's games, where it's just that fantastical art illustrations.
Sort of fairy tale quality they have, for sure. Like, I definitely, when I saw this in the outline, I was like, oh, this is all starting to make sense now.
Yeah, a lot of it makes sense. Like even going back before Tower of Doom, like just the fact that he was working under Akiman, Akira Yasuda over at Capcom, Kino Nishimura, like you can see the influence there. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on this because we're gonna keep talking about the trials and tribulations of Vanillaware as we go. But I fucking love George Kamitani. He is, of all the developers we've ever talked about, he's the one that I can see myself the most in. Just a guy who's like always trying his hardest and always like disastrously failing, but just being like, yeah, why don't we just keep going, you know? Like, this is fine. And always somehow finding someone who's like, yeah, come on, we'll give you money.
That's the baffling thing, is in spite of all the commercial failures, they just keep hiring him. But I mean, like, you know, not to get too ahead of ourselves here, but it's an important company.
Yeah,
they do
absolutely.
original stuff, which we'll get to here. But anyhow, yeah, Princess Crown.
Princess Crown. It ended up being 2D versus 3D because of hardware limitations.
On the Saturn?
Yeah.
I don't believe this for us. That's not the Sega Saturn I know.
And it did end up finally releasing in May 1997. And it was an absolute commercial failure. Yes.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. Perhaps because the Sega Saturn was dying at that point. Perhaps the fact that it had come from a company that had went bankrupt once, and it just didn't really sell all that well. So, complete failure. Developer went bankrupt. Atlas Kunasai was dissolved soon after release. Nice. And
the Kamitani effect at work, people. just destroying companies left and right.
Yeah, and to top it all off, basically it ended up blacklisting the whole team from the industry for quite a while.
Yeah, that word means nothing to this man.
No.
Blacklisting is a made-up term that is not real.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you take a look at it, basically this game came out in 1997. It looks like he was working on stuff and everything else, but nothing else came out until like 2003, 2004. So it's like he really was, they just didn't want him for quite a while.
He was honing his craft.
Yeah, a little bit of purgatory. And it's not even that Princess Crown is a bad game per se. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's great.
Yeah.
Like, the controls are quite weird. Like, here's the thing though, conceptually, it's pretty original. Mm-hmm. Like, it does weird shit. They're trying, and it looks great.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
The sprites are gigantic.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's hard to hold this one against Vanillaware specifically because Sega made them change it. So it's like, what would have been the original versus what actually ended up becoming?
I don't know if I would want to play a princess growing simulator either.
But what if you were a young Japanese boy in 1997?
Thank you. Well, if you were Japanese,
I can definitely say I still don't think I would personally play it. So.
But what if you were a lonely young Japanese boy in 1997?
Well, maybe. We'll see. Maybe in my next life, right?
Oh, God.
We can only hope
to travel back to 1997 in our next life.
And play Princess Crown. As a simulation game.
That's right.
I also find it the game was ported to the PSP in 2005.
That's bananas.
It is bananas, but it was lazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's a lazy port. Like you have the option of either playing in 4:3
on the
aspect
PSP
ratio. Yeah, awesome. With like the black bars on the sides. Or I think you can stretch it so that it's, whatever the aspect ratio of the PSP is. I'm going to assume it's 16:9.
Probably.
But you have the option of stretching it, and then everybody looks, it has like the fat effect. Doesn't look good. Lazy port. I was pretty disappointed because I was actually thinking of picking it up at some point, not necessarily for this episode, but just as a kind of, as a piece of history. I know it's not like the best game, but yeah, that PSP port is lazy, man.
Yeah.
Lazy.
Then do you happen to know, because I saw that they also ported it to the PlayStation 4 for a DLC that was included with 13 Sentinels. In Japan, of course, only. We didn't get it.
I know.
I'm just wondering if they actually upgraded it for that, or...
I don't know. That's a great question. I also wonder if it's available just on the Japanese on the PSN store. Yeah, because I didn't get it. I meant to check it out this week, and, life happens, and I just slipped my mind, so I didn't get a chance to check for sure. But I will on break. And yeah, I wonder if they improved it. They would have had to, right? Like, come on. It's the PS4?
Yeah, PSP, or just lazy port of a Saturn game to a PSP to a PS4.
To a PS4.
Still with Saturn graphics, that would be...
that would be awesome.
That would be an interesting
But all they have to do is extend the screen range, right? Like, and one of the problems with Princess Crown is the size of the screen. Like, the enemies catch up to you in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious when you're trying to eat, because like in every Vanillaware game, and we'll talk about this too, but like, you gain health by eating apples or omelets or whatever the hell they have in the game, right? And so the princess, she starts eating this apple at a leisurely pace, and and she just gets interrupted constantly. If on the PS4 they expanded the screen and gave us a little bit more space to work with, then perhaps she'd actually be able to finish the apple before getting mauled by the giant bird creature.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to call that thing. It looks like a giant crow. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no worries. So, yeah, Princess Crown, complete failure. It ended up being in the future that Atlas and Sega collaborated on many games, so that was one of the positives that came out of this.
Yeah.
But George Kamitani, he had to move on, and the next thing he tried to start getting into was a little game called Fantasy Earth Zero: The Ring of Dominion.
Right.
This is another one
rolls off the tongue.
Sounds so promising already.
Of
Indeed.
course.
Oh, you haven't played Fez : TROD? Like, what?
Feztrod?
Yeah, that's right. You've never played that one?
Feztrod. Okay. That's how we'll shorthand it now. Feztrod.
All about Feztrod.
But he decided to head that up. Enix actually decided to fund this one to begin with. It was supposed to be a small online game in the beginning, but the scale kept on getting bigger and bigger to the point that a small development team was created, and that was the original Pooka, which later became Vanillaware.
Yeah, you don't hire on Peter Molyneux to like design like a 2-hour Game Boy game. Like, no, it's the scale. Once you bring on my man GK, the scale is gonna grow.
and completely change as well, because this one was originally supposed to be humans versus vampires, but Kamitani was like, you know what, let's try to make this into use some of the assets I had for a sequel of Princess Crown, so let's make this into a princess game, basically.
Like, this game is nice and all, but you remember my hit Saturn game, Princess Crown? I think you're going to want to use some of these assets.
I have a lot of assets from the game that we can use.
And I'm prepared to give them to you for $300,000.
Yes. But this project came into hard times when Enix and Square merged. So here we had a possible Bandai Sega merge that screwed up Princess Crown. Here we have the Square Enix merge, and things started happening with Fantasy Earth Zero. Basically, it started becoming a bigger project, and when the merger happened, Kamitani was kind of pushed out of the project, and the project was given to another company. Kamitani was very upset with this, and him and his studio left the project in 2004. Eventually, this game did come out. It didn't do very well. Commercial flop. Here we are again, something that my man George was a part of, and it was a commercial flop.
He left. He bears responsibility for this.
Yeah, he took all the sales with him.
That's right.
Yeah, and Square Enix actually sold off this property as well to GameSpot. They renamed it Fantasy Earth Zero, made it free to play with all the trappings of free to play games that we
can't wait.
know and love.
Wait to play it.
Yes,
love it.
Yes, so if you take a look at this game, you can definitely see the Vanillaware and the George Kamitani's influence on it. I looked up this game and I was like, yep, that was definitely Vanillaware. You can still see the influence even though they left the project for sure.
Yeah, those games have an indelible fingerprint. Like they just you know immediately upon seeing it that it's a Vanillaware game, which, you know, I've said it, this is the 5th time I'm going to say it, which we'll get to. So
all right, so for there we have the beginnings of the Vanillaware, the kind of before they actually became Vanillaware. Right. From here, we will take a break, and when we come back, we'll start getting into some of the games that this company is known for. And we are back. Moving on. Now time to talk about when Vanillaware actually became Vanillaware. So basically they decided, does vanilla make you think of ice cream? Because if yes, that's what they were going for. Basically, George wanted to invoke the timeless popularity of vanilla-flavored ice cream, which we know Arnie agrees with, that it's timeless. 100%. And that Paul and I would rather go with chocolate, apparently. Maybe some other flavors.
No, nobody's saying vanilla is not timeless. just saying there's better options out there.
That's an answer that my man came up with when somebody was interviewing him on the spot. That is a bullshit answer. He was like, fuck it. He was probably like, the real answer is like, somebody asked him, finally was like, listen, your company needs to have a name. Like, you can't just go around saying you work for Untitled. And he was like holding up.
I work for Untitled that used to make adult games.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's leave that in the past and actually have a company. Let's name it something. He was probably eating the ice cream at the time. Vanillaware, sure, whatever.
He's just standing there melting on his hand as he sweated to think of what he was going to say.
So Vanillaware came into existence, and what did Kamitani want to make? Why, a sequel to Princess Crown.
Never give up on your dreams. Keep pushing.
And he does
when people tell you no, you ignore those people. When people tell you yes and you make your thing and it's bad, you ignore that and you continue to make the thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Until the day you die, you never stop.
In researching this at this time, it was basically, it always said that he went and secured funding for this through Atlas, through contacts. And I have to wonder if it was just like, dude, let me make my game. No. Dude, come on, we're friends. We're bros. Let me make this game. No.
Come on.
Come on, man. Let me make this game. So, yeah, and after all that, they did secure funding finally in 2006. So we had the Princess Crown failure back in 1997. Finally, we get in 2004, 2005, 2006. That's when they developed this game. So many years later, he finally got back into the industry to make Odin Sphere. The game was actually completed in 2006, but it didn't come out until much later, 2007, because Atlas took a look at this game and was like, an action RPG type game. We've got this other game coming out, a little thing called Persona 3. Maybe we should separate the release dates of these games. George, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to delay your game. We've got to make sure that it does not compete with Persona 3.
Which makes perfect sense. Sorry, that does make sense. I can't remember which episode we did where we talked about Final Fight Streetwise and Beat Down Fists of Vengeance. I think it was the Why Do These Franchises Fail or something like that. And Capcom released Final Fight Streetwise and Beat Down Fists of Vengeance. Like, I don't want to say within days of each other. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Close.
But it was really close. And you won't believe this, but like, not everybody needs multiple shitty 3D beat-em-ups at the same time, right?
The problem with those games was that they came out too close together. If they had just spaced them out, they would have both been million sellers.
Well, yeah, people would have had a lot more time to absorb them and absorb the quality of Beatdown Fists of Vengeance.
Just children
no question
standing with their parents like, I want both of them!
So no, Atlas played it right. They just kind of fucked George.
Yeah. They were like opening the little cupboard under the stairs they put Harry Potter in and just pushing George inside. Like, we'll let you out in a little bit.
But the thing is too, like, I've played both games and they're so different that I just don't know if they would have cannibalized each other as much as Atlas thinks they would have.
Yeah. I mean,
well, it's not only that, but it's also like quarterly shareholder reports, stuff like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't release everything in one quarter and then the next quarter comes and people who don't know anything about video games and release dates and so on, they're like, oh my god, we did horribly this quarter.
Yeah.
It's like, so they kind of, unfortunately, they're beholden to their corporate overlords in that manner.
I don't want to listen to this shit. I want to live in my fantasy world where money doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, where I get all the games immediately, for sure. Yeah,
all the games immediately.
I want them all now.
Yeah, and George had millions and millions of dollars and didn't have to worry about funding and everything else. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world. And it's weird because in researching all of Vanillaware too, all these games comes in twos. Like, development may not have been at exactly the same time, but for this one, we have Odin Sphere, which came out in May of 2007. But before that, because of this whole Atlas thing, we have a game that came out 1 month before by Vanillaware, Grimoire. And this game basically was developed simply because Atlas said, no, we can't bring out Odin Sphere right now. We've got to wait till Persona 3 and we have to wait till afterwards because they needed money. Vanillaware needed money or they were going to go under. And so they just started going around trying to find someone who would let them make another game. Yeah. And NIS president Sohei Shinkawa basically approached Vanillaware and said, hey, why don't you come make a game for us? The team was given complete creative freedom to do whatever they wanted to with a game. So they decided to make a real-time strategy fantasy title, 2D, and they basically had inspirations from this title from StarCraft, Harry Potter, and Atelier. Those games were the groundwork of this game.
What a mix to put in a cauldron. They say they say pressure makes diamonds, you know. Also, like, I'm sorry, like, listen, I love George. I think he deserves the best in life. This man had to be like out here handing out fake resumes to companies, right? Like, what was on his resume that wasn't either 10 years old and then like a gap of nothing? Like, he was like, oh,
he just gave them pictures. That's it. He drew pictures. That was his resume.
He was like, oh, it says here you've developed Pokemon, Mario, and Sonic the Hedgehog. That's insane.
I'm I worked for Capcom.
No, I don't think he. That's it. That's actually the big one.
Yeah.
No, he just handed them pictures. They're like, "What have you worked on?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Look at this elf girl.
Yeah.
I got this. I know how to make games.
I know how to make it pretty." So.
Do I look like a man who would lead you astray? Shohei, I forgot his last name.
Sohei Shinkawa.
So Grimoire ended up being developed in 6 months.
Get out! Really?
6-month development time. They cranked this baby out.
What a fucking wild time. Like, think about the difference 30 years makes. When, like, 30 years ago, it was like, they made E.T. in how long was it? Like
6
2
weeks.
months?
5 weeks.
6 weeks. And they're like, they made E.T. and people are like, this game is fucking bullshit. And like 30 years later, they're like, they made this game in 6 months. What?
But it's true though. I mean, it's I don't know, it's a good game. Like that's what's shocking about it, right? It probably lacks a little bit of polish, but yeah, it's I
think when you don't give George enough time to like start fiddling with things,
that's really that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
I can remember when Grimoire came out, and I loved the artwork, but the gameplay just didn't. Like, I'm not an RTS person.
Yeah.
Paul, were you interested in seeing this? Did you know about this game when it first came out, and were you interested in it at all?
I didn't know. I mean, I knew about the game because it's got the cool cover. Yep. It's got a weird name. It's Vanillaware. I've been aware of it for the longest time, but especially the PS2 era, PS3 era as well, there's just a whole bunch of games that came and went. Like, we were just yesterday when we were recording the What Have You Been Playing, and I talked about Operation Darkness. Mm-hmm. Like, I never would have known about Operation Darkness but for knowing certain people, right? There's just too many games released in that era. So stuff like Radiant Historia, Grimoire, even Shadow Hearts, like, I just never got around to all those. Yeah. But Grimoire was always on the radar because I was mistaken about what kind of game it is for the longest time. The box, I think maybe because it's published by NIS, but the box kind of has like it looks like Disgaea. I don't know, it just reminded me of Disgaea. So I just kind of assumed it was a tactical RPG. No real reason to assume that. You just look at the cover and I'm like, yeah, it's a tactical RPG. But that's not the case. It's sort of like an RTS kind of hybrid, very, very original kind of game. And I can understand why you wouldn't like it, Kelly. Like, these, an RTS it's not for everybody, of course. And if you don't have a mouse and keyboard, then there is automatically kind of an extra layer of difficulty to that kind of game.
Yeah. The words console RTS are famously cursed.
And that's why, like, this game, once again, it came out and it was...
Don't do it. Don't you say it.
Can we guess it? Can we guess it was a commercial failure?
God damn it.
I don't believe you.
God damn it.
No, that's wrong. We need to redo this out. Stop the episode.
Scratching out Grimoire on his resume, writing Rayman furiously. Can't fucking believe this shit.
No, Rayman's actually the perfect one, because you can't write Mario or Sonic. Yeah. That's too fantastical, right? But if you write Rayman, just the right amount of success. Yeah,
but nobody's gonna question it.
Nice, diabolical, Arnie. I'm impressed.
When you look at this title, it's RTS on a console, so you're going to be using a controller.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't see this coming a mile away kind of surprises me. The fact that they already had like plans for a sequel and everything else. It's just like, you really thought this game would do so well to make a sequel, and you could bank on that?
Dude.
Well, I mean, come on. Nobody jumps onto the field, kicks the ball, and expects to lose the game. You got to think you're going to win, right? Like,
dude,
I mean,
George Kamitani
let's make money, but
he's a fucking like trickster elf. Like, he walks into people's office. He just bamboozles these people constantly. He must be the most charming person on the planet. I don't know how he keeps getting away with this.
He's a Jedi.
Yeah. How else do you explain all this that we've talked about so far?
I don't. Although, I mean, Odin Sphere did all right, didn't it, Kelly?
That came out after, so we'll get there for sure. But that was their first success. but you had 3 in a row here that it was just like, commercial failure. We don't want to see this again. Commercial failure. No. So just the fact that they were still giving him money, it's just like, and at this point too, the reason they had to shop around so much is Atlas said, we ain't going to make anything else by you until we see how Odin Sphere does. So please go find more money elsewhere.
Astute. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Kamitani actually had to take out a personal loan to keep the company afloat at this time, too, because between 2006, they had Odin Sphere just sitting there, and Grimoire wasn't out yet. So he took out a personal loan just to keep his company afloat. And
I think it was like serious business. Like it was like $200,000 or something like that. Yeah. Somewhere in that, it wasn't no small amount.
He was fucking smooth talking the guy at the bank. Like, listen, I've got this idea for a video game.
Pay it back double. Just
I got you, man. I've made hit after hit after hit.
Look at this pretty elf. Look at this pretty elf I drew. How can that go wrong?
This buff guy? You don't like pretty elves? How about this buff guy? We'll go with the buff guy instead.
God. I hope he's a millionaire today. I hope he's okay.
So, month after Grimoire unfortunately flopped, we had Odin Sphere finally come out. And Odin Sphere was Vanillaware's first success. So, clap, absolutely, finally.
Yay. Promptly erase everything before this moment from your life's history.
So, positive reception given to its story, its visuals, and its gameplay, with negatives kind of being the inventory system and frame rate issues. Have either of you played this on the PS2?
Yeah,
I haven't.
Yeah, I don't remember there being any frame rate issues personally. Like, I don't know, man. You do?
I do.
Yeah.
I got far enough into it. Basically, it carries over to the PS3 version too. If you download it. Yeah. The game, I want to say it was in the snow area. There's a whole bunch of enemies that just appear on the screen at once. And
And yeah, is that later in the game or earlier?
Yeah, it's later in the game.
Yeah, okay. I only played halfway through it, so that makes more sense.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's why he put all that stuff back there that's all bad, so you'd only play halfway through and you're like, "Oh, wow, this game's great."
But anyhow, to answer your question, I played it. I don't know. I enjoyed it. It's too long. Yeah. What do you think, Kelly?
I only played, I did not complete it on the PS2, but there was a re-release on the PS4, which I would butcher the name of, so I really don't want to even try. But basically, the PS4 version fixed a lot of the problems on the game for me. Like, when I put in the PS2 version of Odin Sphere, the eating to gain health and everything else to get onto your actual stats versus just regaining health, but it also would maybe your health, even your maximum health, so on and so forth. At that time, I was like, but I'll need this later to actually refill my health, so I don't want to use all my resources now to up my actual stats. And
classic RPG gamer mentality.
Yes, I have to save that elixir until the final boss, even though I'll have 100,000 of them because I may need it later. Yeah.
What if I used it and then I only had 99,999, and then he killed me?
Dead.
Who would be the fool then?
But when I got it on, of course, it came out on PS4 and at the same time on the Vita. I devoured that game at that point.
Interesting.
Yes. I loved the characters. I loved the setting, the whole Ragnarok theme. End of the world is coming. It's not even like the characters are trying to stop the end of the world. It's just how can we get through this? Can we survive somehow? And just seeing all 5 of the storylines, because there's 5 different storylines in this game, and just seeing them all sort of intertwine and how everything turns out in the end. So you have one character that you're fighting for, and then you switch to another character that has a completely different play style, and she's the enemy of the first character that you played. So just to see all the different sides of the war, it was just extremely interesting to me, and I really did love that story when I finally saw it through to the end.
It's fascinating to me that a story could be crafted where you don't get to the end of the game and then have to replay it for a different ending. they can just have different perspectives. Oh, Kelly's getting pissed off at me. I know. This near automata debate it'll never end. It'll never end.
However, you did have to fight there was 5 different end bosses, and if you did not fight and they gave you a choice. Who do you want to fight this character with? And if you chose the wrong one, you would not get the true ending.
What the fuck?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I had to read up on which character was supposed to fight which boss, because it was the only...
It's not like one of these things that, like, if you pay attention, you'll figure out. It's like you have to, like, just guess.
Is it random?
Well, no, I mean, each character has to fight a certain boss, but it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, like, when I say is it random, I mean, like Arnie was saying, is there some kind of storyline cue that will set you up so that you choose correctly?
If there is, I missed it. So,
yeah. Like, is one of them like, oh, I really hate red shoes, and then one of the bosses is like, I just got these sweet red Converse the other day, like, hope nobody comes by and beats me up for them.
Yeah.
Well,
if you can't get the trending there, then that's your fault.
Yeah, but I don't know, when this game came out too, I don't know if either of you remember any of the promotional material that they had for this game. Do either of you remember that?
I remember vaguely.
I don't.
I vaguely remember, like, seeing... I don't know if you're talking about, like, video promotional stuff or something like that. I remember seeing, like, ads for it and, like on in-game stores and stuff, and it being very striking. Because I was like, oh, this is, like very weirdly, like, drawn, and, like, it's very, like we've talked about, it's very, like, ethereal, fairy tale like graphics that I've always been like, oh, this game is like, before it came out on the PS4, I was always marginally aware of it, and I was always like, oh, that game's really pretty to look at, but I'd never played it before.
Yeah. This was the first game I can remember where I saw the art style and said, I need this game.
Yeah.
I can actually remember I was following it and trying to figure out exactly what day it was going to come into stores. I looked up the release date, found out the release date of the game, and that we had a store that was like 45 minutes away from me that was supposed to get the game. Because I lived in this small little dinky town that didn't have video game stores. So 45 minutes away, it was supposed to get the game. So I drove there. They were having a midnight release for some other game. And I was scouring the shelf looking for Odin Sphere. And I had my boyfriend with me at the time. I was like, you have to find this game. He's like, what's it look like? I don't know. Just there wasn't any cover art that we knew of at the time. So it was just like going up and down the aisles trying to figure out where the game was. And
oh, wow.
What a time to be alive.
When I bought it at an EB Games at the Eaton Center in downtown Toronto, and I was looking for it specifically, and so I walked up to the girl in the store at EB Games, and I was like, hey, do you have Odin Sphere? And she says, yeah, and then we start talking about it. She's like, yeah, I've played it, it's great, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, oh, wow, this girl's pretty cute, and so on and so forth. And she likes Odin Sphere. I'm like, this could be good stuff. and then I had to leave the store for whatever reason. I can't remember what. Maybe I had to get cash or something. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But there was a reason I left and I didn't buy Odin Sphere. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm a cheap piece of shit and I didn't want to spend the money right away. I had to walk around for an hour and think about it first. Oh, okay, now the story checks out. But anyway, I was like, wow, this girl, this is great, right? So I'm gonna go back to the store. I'm gonna pick up Odin Sphere and I'm gonna get her number. And so I went back to the store. I picked up Odin Sphere. And I started talking to her again, and she looked at me like she had never seen me before in her entire life. Holy shit, was the wind ever taken out of my sails? And no, damn. I did not get her phone number. Yeah, I was like, here I am floating around the mall like a butterfly, like, ooh, I think this girl, yeah, okay, this is gonna... And then I go back, nothing.
You ask her about it, she starts telling you the exact same thing she already told you before.
Yeah, exactly. Like an android or something.
Incredible.
But
thankfully the game was good though, so it wasn't like a complete waste.
Good game, but you still haven't seen the credits roll once?
Yeah.
No, look, I mean, it can be a good game without being finished. You know what I'm saying? The problem, like I alluded to earlier, it's just too long. Yeah. It's just too long. Like it's kind of samey a lot of the time, as most kind of like action beat 'em up stuff kind of is. So after about 20 hours, I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. The story's good, but I don't think I want to do this for another 20 hours. Yeah. And just kind of based on the trajectory of the story, I'm pretty sure that's what I was in for. Do you remember how long it took you, Kelly?
Oh, I want to say it was about 45 hours completely.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think I was too far off there.
It's not a terrible time, though, for an RPG.
No, it's not. Yeah. But, like, it just wasn't...
It wasn't grabbing you.
Again, it was good for 20 hours, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
The thing that can keep you playing is the fact that each of the 5 characters do play very differently. So you can get different moves and movesets out of all of them. You have your archer and so on and so forth. But the one thing I can see dragging a lot of people down is you're taking all 5 of those characters through the same dungeons over and over. So if you hate the snow area, guess what? You're going to see it 5 times because each character eventually does tread through that area.
Yeah.
And even near the end, I can admit, near the end, I was getting fatigued on seeing those same dungeons with the different characters.
I want to make sure I'm remembering this correctly. This is sort of an action-y RPG type game, correct? Like, this is more in the mold of Princess Crown than, like, Grimoire or something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, and it's...
Yeah, I don't think I'm too far off when I say that this was the game that Princess Crown was supposed to be.
Yeah, especially the PS4 version, once they cleaned it up, made the action smoother. And
well, it took him 25 years to make the game he wanted to make all along.
But and finally was able to move on, too. But we'll get to that for sure. All right, so I think that's what we have for Grimoire and for Odin Sphere. When we get back, we will talk about their next 2 games that basically were developed together. So, next up for Vanillaware, 2 titles. One of them was a commercial success, and one a commercial failure.
I don't believe you. Listen, They're all
what is he batting now? Like a 200?
Yeah, it's below the Mendoza line.
Well, at this point, we're like, 50-50. We're good, right?
Yeah.
But if I give you a synopsis of these 2 titles, can you guess which one was the success and which was the failure? One of them we have...
Well...
Let's do it. Hit me with it.
Yes, please, go ahead.
One of them, an action RPG. The other one, an anthropomorphic raising simulator where you raise a small girl to go around with other small anthropomorphic girls and have, like, basically dates and other such items with it. Which one of these?
So he developed A Link to the Past and Animal Crossing. Which one of these was a hit?
Well, I mean, that's a terrible analogy. They're both hits. Oh my god. I'm certain it's the little dog girl raising simulator that was successful.
Oh, of course. But these 2 titles, Muramasa, the Demon Blade, and Kumatanchi was our little dog raising girl. I don't even know how to describe this game, honestly. Both, basically, Vanillaware decided they wanted to try their hand at making multiple games at the same time, and these 2 games were the results. The problem was... basically, Kumatanchi was given kind of the short end of the stick, which, can you really blame him? It was a DS title, and one of the artists for Vanillaware basically decided to be the director, the head artist, and the animator. And after this game was completed, he said, I never want to direct a game again, because...
Really?
Oh yeah.
Because the little girl simulator was so taxing.
I've never wanted to work at a company more. Like, can somebody make a movie about this man's life? Like, can you imagine? Like just get a little bit of success. He's like, all right, we got a hit. we'll make 2 games at once. We've been training for this. We got it.
Once without really expanding.
Has Leonardo DiCaprio written all over
absolutely.
it. Sorry, Kelly.
Let's not expand the staff. Let's just try to split them in 2s. Yo, you're an artist. Be the director. Be the head artist. Be the animator. Go forth and create success.
He like walked up to the staff. He's like, I've been reading this little book called The Secret lately, and it's been teaching me some things.
Work smarter, not harder.
Right.
I'm also
listen. If I make you 3 jobs, but I only pay you 1 salary, it's like I'm fucking saving money over here.
Works out fantastic for me.
I don't know about you guys, but I want to take George to the bar and just like go over his entire life. It seems like he would just be, because after Odin Spear, of course, since it was a success, he got to pay back his loan, and he paid his staff back too. He was like, "Hey, we got money now."
That's
Let's
good move. That is good on him for doing that.
Well, yeah, he has to do that.
I'll say that
if you take him out for drinks,
I'll say that the outline
you're probably ending up with the tab.
I'll say that the outline only says that he gave them bonuses. It doesn't say how much. So maybe like a $5 here and there. He was like, "Here you go."
Might have been a hearty handshake. Thank you very much.
Nice pat on the back.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
See you on the next game, and let's hope that one's successful too, and you'll get 2 handshakes.
That's right. I'll shake your hand with my right hand this time. This is my dominant hand. Save this one for the president of NIS. No, I would love to go to the bar with him, except that I feel like by the end of the conversation, I not only would have paid for the tab, but I'd also be like $50,000 invested in like a farming simulator of some kind.
Without ever even agreeing to it. You just look at your bank account the next day, and you're like, what the hell happened to my money?
Like, people are just texting me like, I saw your name in the credits of Vanillaware. Executive producer, what the fuck?
I'm Princess Crown 52, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Where we add in, gosh, what crossover could we do now with Princess Crown? We'll figure it out sometime.
Oh, Attack on Titan.
Oh, whoa! I'm in.
No, the princess that takes on Titans. This is what we need.
That the crossover we could only dream to have.
No, it's Princess Crown, but you raise a Titan instead of raising the princess.
Jesus Christ, these ideas on this show. What are we doing wasting our time podcasting? We're idea people here. This is great. Oh my god.
So we have these 2 games about Kumatanchi commercial failure. And
No.
What did they blame? They blamed staff shortages, stress of a tight production schedule, and never wanted to direct a game again. And Vanillaware decided maybe we should only work on 1 game at a time and not stretch our resources all that far.
That's the thing about George, is he's always learning. He's always evolving. He's taking life lessons and applying them to his career.
The thing is, he also threw this completely out the window, as we'll find out later on. But the idea was there to only make 1 game at a time. So the game that that was being developed at the time, the Demon Blade, got most of the development team on it.
Yeah.
So it was developed for the Wii because they said, you know what? Odin Spear ran so damn well on that PS2. We should try to stay with a system that has similar specs so that we can use everything we learned.
That's right.
And have it on the Wii. But
we can get the most out of these motion controls.
It's not the worst move though, because like how many Muramasa the Demon's Blades are there on the Wii? I would think that on the PS3 you'd have stiffer competition.
Yeah.
For that kind of game. Like the Wii has obviously 10,000 games, but you know, the shovelware to quality ratio is pretty poor. Yeah.
So, and there's 100+ million Wiis out there, so you know.
Exactly. I don't know if I would call it a bad move financially. I mean, if you're looking to craft the highest quality game, then I don't think you're doing that on the Wii. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I could. That's defensible.
Thankfully, they released it on another platform that also had, you know, hundreds of millions of units floating out there.
Yeah.
Best console ever, though. So
that's right.
The definitive version of this game for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Now, did you guys play this on the Wii or on the Vita?
On the Wii all day.
Really?
Yes.
For me, it was Vita. Yeah.
I played it on the Wii.
Look, I like higher definition graphics.
Yeah. I played it with the, the classic controller. I think you could use that.
Yeah.
So I played it that way. I really enjoyed it, honestly. Like, even as like you said, Paul, it was like, it's not like I was drowning in Wii games that I was like, oh, what a unique experience. Muramasa, that's just another title in the sea of Wii Gold. So when I got it, I was like, oh, thank God, I can finally take Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze out of my Wii.
I think that's a Wii U title.
Oh, sorry. No, Donkey Kong Country Returns. My apologies.
Oh, right. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. No, I felt similarly. Like I was drowning in the sheer amount of Vita action games. And so Muramasa, like, it stood out from the crowd. It stood out from the crowd.
All these games definitely do because of their art style. And
yes,
this was a game I didn't really follow the development of, but when it came out on the Wii, I mean, when you take a look at that cover art, it was like, oh, this is like, it's got to be the same company as Odin Sphere. And do you check the back and it's like, oh, yep, that's the same company as Odin Sphere.
Yeah.
And it's dope. It's a dope cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. And
like, I don't know. I wonder if you guys had a different experience because, Kelly, I'm assuming you played it on the Vita as well, right?
I played it on both. I've played both versions.
You played it on both. Oh,
yes.
Perfect. So I guess my thing was I saw it on the Vita. I saw it on the Wii. I think I might have had a Vita at this time, but I'm not 100% sure. My thing was I was like, I see this cover art. This art looks gorgeous. I know the Wii isn't as strong of a console, but I think I was like, this is a game I have to play on the big screen. Like, I don't want to handheld this, So I think I took the hit in quality to get the better overall experience. But what do you think, Kelly? Since you've played them both, like, which would you recommend?
I recommend the Vita version. Okay. Simply I really wish the Vita would have done better for one reason with this game is they did come out, and it actually came out a long time after the game came out on the Vita. They did 4 different DLC packs for this game.
Oh, I did not know
And on each DLC pack, you played a different character, had a different moveset, had different areas that you went to. So, like, I only managed to get one of the 4 because I just had too many other games going on at the time.
Yeah,
but you basically played like this cat girl, if I remember. And it was like you would just go around fighting with your claws and everything back and forth. And it was just completely different play style from either of the main characters in the game. And just, I think more people need to experience all of those different DLCs to see the full game that you could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hopefully they'll come out with like a complete version of it on the PS5 or something.
That'd be
what's
nice.
Vanillaware doing these days? They gotta have some time on their hands.
Princess Crown, hello.
God damn it.
No, but joking around with that, if we go back, this one was not by Atlas. I mean, for me, Vanillaware and Atlas kind of go hand in hand at this point in time.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
But this one is my Marvelous Entertainment, and it was pitched to them during the dry spell between when Odin Sphere was finished and released. So they decided to take this one on as well. Didn't come out for years later, but it was a success for Marvelous Entertainment and went on to sell quite a few copies and, of course, got that port over on the Vita where... For a Vita game, it did pretty well, I would say.
Yeah. Now it's pretty pricey, I think, as per most good Vita games.
Is it really?
I think so.
Jesus Christ.
It's not, if I remember correctly, it's not crazy. Like, it's not, in the top tier.
Yeah.
But it's, it's held its value at the very least, I'd say.
Interesting. Yeah, but it's good. Yeah. It's good. Like, what else is there to say, right? It's so funny, like, I agree, Kelly, like, whenever I think of Vanillaware, it's always Atlas, and when I don't see Atlas, it's like, what? What's going on here? This is a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Atlas was doing more important things, like publishing random developers 360 games.
Yes.
Like Operation Darkness.
Like Operation Darkness. So, you're telling me that Muramasa the Demon Blade was more successful than... Kumatanchi?
Yes. Why, yes, it was.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around. I thought the furry simulator was the more successful one. You threw me a curveball.
See, the problem is now that I feel like before these games were just commercial failures, but it sounds like the development of Kumatanchi like broke a man's brain. Like now there's a human cost to the... You think they have a sign at the office that's like, this many days since George made us make multiple games at once or something?
And
it's basically Panzer Dragoon Saga all over again. Like, down to the quality, the style, and the story behind it, breaking people.
Now, you guys both have played this game, or the Demon Blade. You haven't... I don't think any of us has played Kumatanchi or have any desire to do so.
Sadly,
no.
Oh,
so you do have a desire to do so. So we'll have to find you a copy of that game.
Oh, God.
Did you play both storylines in The Demon Blade?
No.
No, just one.
Just one.
You too, Arnie?
Yep. I don't know if I even finished it because I think I had to move and then I sort of forgot.
Yeah.
Did you both play the dude?
Yeah, no.
Yes. Yes, I did.
It's a dude.
I struggled with it. I was kind of pissed, honestly, when I found out it was two separate storylines because I was like, I don't want to I just don't want to commit because I'm always afraid that like if I go with my gut and I pick the girl who's the person I usually want to play with, that I'm not going to like the play style. But then I end up playing the dude, and I'm like, oh, he's just kind of boring. Like, no matter who I pick, I'm always longingly wondering if the other character is more fun.
Well,
like, I don't know if this happens to anybody else. And I don't have, like, I don't know if I'm just stubborn or stupid, probably both. But I'm like, I don't want to look it up. Like, I don't want to look up gameplay of, like, what they play like. No. I want to go into it fresh. But I'm like, I don't know.
I know, and the girl... Oftentimes, the female character in these games is the more fun one. She's usually faster. Yep. It usually takes more hits from her to finish an enemy, which usually means higher combos. Higher combos means more fun. And usually the guys are like, a little bit slower, a little bit more heavy-handed, kind of like tutorial characters.
Yeah.
So, but with that said, like, it's a girl. I'd rather just pick... I'm not a girl. I'd rather just pick the guy.
It's so weird for me to hear that because I actually have had this discussion with my husband before too, where he's like, "Oh, I've got to play a girl in this game." He was replaying Mass Effect, and I told him to take a female shepherd for it,
Fem-shep all the way.
And he's like, "This is so weird. I can't go and romance dudes and everything else." I'm like, "What the hell do you think I've been doing my entire life? I've been romancing chicks since I was fucking 6, dude."
Yeah. You make a very good point. And how do you get around that? Like when you're playing Persona,
you don't. You're fucked.
And
you have to just put up with it.
And you're trying to pick between like Anne and Futaba. Like how do you deal?
Honestly, it doesn't even faze me anymore. It's just like, I like the personality of this chick. We'll go with her. I mean, Rise is my go-to in Persona 4. Always will be. She's best girl for sure. And doesn't faze me anymore having to romance chicks. Doesn't.
Yeah. Well, joke's on you. Because
have you ever had a situation where the male protagonist was so shitty that you gave him the worst girl?
No, I can't think of a single situation that I've done that in.
I've never.
I know they're usually not unlikable. Yeah,
they're usually pretty bland, honestly. So there's got to be this. Usually they're the self-insert character, so you're supposed to be able to see yourself as this person. So they're not going to make them intentionally shitty.
Joke's on you. I play as male shepherd, but I always romance Garrus anyway. So there you go. I solved that problem.
Well, Garrus is best.
I haven't played Mass Effect. I'm assuming
Garrus the dude?
that
Garrus is the alien guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a dude alien or like a neuter alien?
He's a dude alien.
He's a dude alien. People were very upset. Do you remember? I'm sorry, this is like completely.
I do remember. Please talk about it.
But do you remember the controversy of like Mass Effect shows a butt or whatever it was, like in like the romance scene or whatever? Does anybody remember this?
I remember there was a lot of uproar about even same sex at that time. It was like, holy shit.
Yes.
This made the news like in America.
It's incredible, man. When you look at headlines from 10, 20, 30 years ago and what people were outraged about, geez, man. Like this is, hey, look, on the bright side, it's the mark of a successful society. Because if we had real problems, we wouldn't be focusing on gay characters in Mass Effect, right? So, kudos to the world for not having famine and war to deal with.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, we ignore those problems.
Yeah, good point. Maybe we just distract ourselves from the real stuff. Yeah. Oh, man.
Anyway.
That's depressing.
But when it comes to Muramasa, I unfortunately did play as the guy. So I want to know, have you played as both, Kelly? Like, is that what you asked?
Yes, I played... when I played on the Wii, I didn't have a classic controller. I had the standard Wiimote, and it was kind of miserable to play through.
Yeah,
I hate that design. I hate any game that does not let me use the classic controller. I've only really played through, I want to say, 3 or 4 different Wii games, simply because I cannot stand that controller. Yep. So I played through it as just the girl on the Wii version. When I got to the Vita version, I was really into trophy hunting at that point in time. So I played both the girl and the guy, and got all 108 swords, and finally beat the final boss to get the true ending with that one. So.
Oh, wow. Do you have a preference between, like, did we make the wrong choice, in your opinion?
I would say that you have a little more complicated play style with the girl. She can be more fun, but you have more to learn. It's more standard hack and slash when you've got the guy. So
yeah, that is what it felt like to me. Like, run this way, beat people up, run the other way, beat people up.
And then one thing that I always thought about this game too, which apparently I was completely wrong, is I always classified it as kind of a Metroidvania as well, because there was a bunch of different routes and everything you could take. But I was sadly slapped down and told absolutely not, because you open these new ways with keys. You don't get new abilities to open these. So it is an action RPG and not a Metroidvania.
No way. That's great.
You were being very silly, honestly, Kelly. Like that. Well done, whoever commented there. Excellent use of time.
Yes.
Fuck, man. I hate people.
But I'd say that Muramasa is my second favorite of what I've played for Vanillaware games.
Really? I mean, Odin Sphere being number 1, Kumatanchi being number 1.
Kumatanchi. Well,
yeah.
I really should be reserving the judgment until I've played Kumatanchi. So.
Yeah.
All right, so there we have those 2 games. We will take a break, and when we come back, Dragon's Crown. And we're back on this Vanillaware journey. So, as we learned last time, Vanillaware decided, hey, we should only develop one game at a time. And of course...
Good for them.
They decided not to do that. Because...
Hey, don't limit yourself. Never hold yourself back from your true potential.
Because Marvelous basically went to them and was like, hey, we would like to work with you on another game after the success that we had. We want to make it for the PSP. So, and that game would be Grand Knight's History. Now, this game was another game that never made it out of Japan. The reason that it was supposed to get a localization. And if you've seen this game, I would love to have gotten a version of it here in the States. But because of all the development that was going into the other game that we're going to talk about, there was just too much focus on that game, and they decided that this game we're going to drop the development of the localization. Xseed canceled it, and the game remains stuck in Japan. But Grand Knight History, basically the game was directed by Tomohiko Deguchi and was a blend, distinct style of Vanillaware, and it was a turn-based battle system with online multiplayer. It was actually a critical and financial success, so would have loved to have seen it here in the States, but that was never to be. However, when Takaguchi left Vanillaware, he went on to create another game that we did actually get here in the States, and that game was Grand Kingdom. Grand Kingdom
I've heard of this game.
It came out on the PlayStation 4 as well as the Vita, so that's how I know about it, of course.
That's why I've heard of it, because I own it.
Yeah, so, and if you see, I can remember when this game came out as well on the Vita, I was like, it looks kind of like a Vanillaware game, like it was inspired by, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
But you could still see that pedigree that was there. I personally, while I do own it, I have never played it. Definitely want to get around to it to see how it plays and see if I really want to go back in Grand Knight's history. Take a look at that. Paul, did you have any interest in these games?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the first one, the PSP one, Grand Knight History, or Grand Knight's History. Like if you just look at it, it looks very unique. Like that's the thing. I like it when I see a game that has characters that are distinct fantasy classes and they have little numbers under them denoting HP and whatever kind of skill points there are. And that automatically draws my eye. And then you look at Grand Knight's History and the way the characters kind of interact with the monsters is very different than anything I've seen. I have no idea how it works. If I had known that Grand Kingdom was a sequel, and if I had known about Grand Knight's History before we did this episode, I would have absolutely picked up Grand Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It is Grand Kingdom, right? That's what it's called?
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have absolutely picked that up. As it stands now, well, here comes eBay. Like this is this is what's happening.
I picked up Grand Kingdom, I think, for like $10 at GameStop.
Of course you did.
Because this was like, I don't know, Kelly, you can speak to this more with more knowledge than I can. But when the PS4 sort of was starting out, I feel like there was a Switch-like migration of Vita titles to the PS4. Or maybe they were just coming out together. I don't know. But I remember picking this up and picking up, I think it's called God Wars, which is also a Vita title that made it on the PS4. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, you can have these for like $10 each. And I was like, I'm going to get these now because I don't know if they're going to be expensive later.
Yeah. Both versions did come out at the same time. I do remember that. I had the Vita version, Super Deluxe Mega Super $5,000 edition on pre-order.
Oh god,
it's probably actually 100, but there was 3 editions of this game. I can remember it came out.
Really?
The standard edition, the collector's edition, and then a collector's edition that came with an extra box of shit. That of course it was a Vita game. I needed the extra box of shit.
Yep. George knows what the people want.
And then like you, I was wandering around at a GameStop and saw that the PS4 version was also super amazingly cheap. So I picked up the PlayStation 4 version. It was open, so we have a non-sealed game in the collection, but unfortunately still have not popped it in to play it. But
well, that won't fit. But you know what? I'm going to be generous. If you want to just give it to me, just to kind of clean up your shelf a little bit and keep the rest of the stuff sealed, I would be happy to take it off your hands. Don't have to thank me now. Later, off the show.
I'll definitely think about it. I'm
gonna tell you the secret right here. What you do is you go into your game store, right? You go up to the wall of PS4 stuff. Anything that's like anime or has like anime art styles, immediately throw it into your cart.
I know. And you're right, because there are other games that I could have bought and they had the typical big-eyed whatever, and I was just like, fuck, I got too many games and I haven't heard of this one. And then I check later and it's like, jeez, it. But you're right, like that is the buying guide if you want to buy games for value. So to
speak. If it says NIS, if it says Atlas, if it says Xseed, immediately throw it in your car and keep walking.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's almost tiring, actually.
Yep, Spike Chunsoft for sure. All of these.
Yeah. Crystar, Blue Reflection, and it's funny because those are the games that I've always been into. So I always follow them and see them at the super cheap price, and I'm like, we'll buy that now, and then check later, and it's like, cool that was 150.
Kelly, you're setting the trend now.
Well, it's funny too. People are always like, "Oh, how do you do it? How do you stay on top of like what games are going to be like expensive in the future?" And it's just like, anime girls.
Just buy all of them.
If it's made by Activision Blizzard, it's going to be super cheap later on. If it's made by any of those major developers, they're going to be super cheap. If it's made by a niche developer, has anime eyes, anime girls, and you see 2 copies of it in your life, pick it up as soon as you see it.
Yeah. It's either that or like the truly weird, like this rule obviously does not apply to a game like Africa on the PS3. Which is also extremely weird and stupid, expensive. But it's just weird. It's just like fundamentally strange.
Yep.
But those you can't predict with as much certainty.
No. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Grand Knight's history. I would love to have that, and the fact that there's a Grand Kingdom. Yeah, that's very interesting stuff.
Definitely something to look into. But unfortunately, with that one being stuck in Japan, we did get the other game that was being developed at the same time. And this was one that a lot of people have heard about. And it's probably one of I'd say their best known game. And that would be Dragon's Crown. Dragon's Crown was a reworked version of Kamitani's dream of... Can we maybe guess that he was looking at a Princess Crown sequel with this one?
Oh, I thought it was a Kumatanchi sequel. Oh, okay, I guess I'm wrong.
And this one was originally supposed to be published by UTV Ignition Entertainment, but they had financial problems, and the game was in danger of being shut down.
You don't say. What a turn the story has taken all of a sudden.
Something we've never seen. This would be a great, just movie. Let's do it. We're shutting down production again.
Yeah, no, this would be a movie that gets stuck in development hell for 4 years and gets shelved or something.
That's correct.
And then 14 years later you get Duke Nukem Forever, and
that's right. Yeah. No, 14 years later you get the Netflix biopic of just Kumatani.
Kumatani, the epic story.
No, Kamitani. Fuck. God damn it.
Yeah, no, the Kumite is the blood sport, right. No holds barred tournament.
Named after George Kamitani.
Yes, slight change.
I should just stick with calling him George. It would make life easier. My man George.
That's right.
But my man George, he went to Atlas.
Oh, God.
Who does he know at Atlas? That just is like, hey, come on.
Who the fuck sees this guy walking in the door and is like, hey!
I know, right? When you see him walking in the door, don't you just call security?
Immediately start pressing the button under your desk frantically.
No, sir, you don't belong here.
So Atlas decided they would in fact fund the project. So he definitely knows some people at Atlas. But they also said, in return, we get first refusal on your next project after Dragon's Crown. So it seems like they've realized that they're either super hot, amazing games, or they're going to be absolute garbage. So let's just we'll put it on lock right now. All right, let's get
on this ride for the 4th time.
Yeah. Cover our bases.
So they did make Dragon's Crown over at Atlas. You can tell the inspiration for Dragon's Crown pretty clearly with this one. Yeah. Even when I first saw this game, the first game I thought of was Golden Axe. I don't know about you guys, but just that hack and slash from Golden Axe.
I immediately thought of the Dungeons and Dragons arcade games instantly.
Yeah, Shadow of Mystara, Tower of Doom.
Tower of Doom was definitely another one, and of course, since Kamitani worked on that one, you had that influence as well. And the loot system was based on Diablo.
Paul's favorite.
And originally the game was supposed to have randomized dungeons and everything else, but the development team decided that it would be better for people to be able to play through each and every dungeon and learn the ins and out of it. So that was scrapped, and they went with the dungeons the way they are now. Now, I don't know about you. I kind of think I would have preferred random dungeons. Arnie, what do you think on that one?
It's tough, but if somebody was like, pick right now, I'd probably say yes, just to keep it a little more fresh, especially since, if you're intending on playing the game with multiple characters, it probably would have helped not sort of work down that grind a little bit better, not get as tired of seeing the same locations over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It would have helped because the game, it does get a little bit monotonous. You know, it's very pretty to look at. It controls very well, et cetera, et cetera. But it can get monotonous, especially on single player. If you're multiplayer, then, you know, you have a little bit more fun because multiplayer games are always more fun. But yeah, some kind of like roguelike-ish system, you know, maybe a little bit more of a refinement for the treasure as well. That would have served it well, I think.
Yeah, this game begs to be played multiplayer. I don't think I've ever played this game by myself.
I played it for like an hour by myself. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'll just wait until I have friends. And then I'll do it.
When in the release did you guys play this game? Because I played it week 1 when it was released. I bought Dragon's Crown came out the same day in the US as Tales of Exilia. I bought both games at GameStop. I actually bought them. I bought Dragon's Crown on PS3 originally, not on the Vita, even though they came out, because it was recommended to me to play it on the PS3 because, I mean, Vanillaware graphics, let's put it on the big screen, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I started Tales of Exilia and played it for about 45 minutes, then popped in Dragon's Crown and probably played it for, I'd say, 50 hours from that point onward. So for me to put down a Tales game and say, nah, whatever, and move on to Dragon's Crown, pretty big deal. But week 1, there was plenty of people playing online, so I could just go into a dungeon and I'd have a full party within 5 minutes.
Yeah. That definitely helps. I played it very early on, maybe even the first week of release, but I didn't have it. It was a buddy of mine. I went over to his place to play it. And that's the thing, like we didn't get together every single week, so I never ended up finishing it. And then later on, I picked it up on the Vita, which I guess, I don't know, is it really a mistake? It sits on the shelf, it looks pretty, whatever. But I didn't play it longer than an hour and a half, I don't think, because you're just playing it by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, almost the exact same thing as Paul. Like, I definitely played it. I don't think it was week of release, but it was close to release. And it was a friend of mine who had gotten it. And I would go over to his house. We played it once, me, him, and his brother, I think. And we marathoned it for a while. We got pretty far, but didn't finish it. I think I may have played it with him a couple more times. But when I played it, I really enjoyed it. Like, it was a really fun game. And it was a return to that Dungeons and Dragons arcade experience that I was craving. Like, I was like, finally, I can relive this experience without having to find an arcade machine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that long either. No. It's like 15, 14 hours, 13 something hours like that, even.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, maybe even less than that, depending on how many side quests you want to try to finish and so on.
Yeah, that was still in my trophy days, so I've played through it on all 3.
For this?
No, I do not have the platinum. Is I think it's getting all the characters to level 99, and
ooh, hell
I think.
No.
Oh dear.
And if I
God.
remember right, they raised the limit of the level limit, so you can get beyond that even now. But week 1 of release, it was 99.
Wow.
And I think I got my Amazon. Yes, I was an Amazon main to 92, and then I stopped there.
Yeah, I think I played Amazon or the Ranger. Those are the 2 that I enjoyed playing.
Oh, isn't that funny? I usually play the mage, the sorcerer, not the sorceress.
I hate magic in these kinds of games. Every time like I play D&D or something, I'm always a physical fighter character.
I generally prefer that, like, or a healer. But this time, it just, I don't know, like, it just felt, and my buddy who I was playing it with, so I played the PS4 version, Dragon's Crown Pro, recently, actually. Just finished it, like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something like that with a buddy. And I knew he wasn't going to pick a mage. Like, I let him pick first, and he picked the dwarf, because the dwarf looks hilarious. And as soon as you pick the dwarf, it's like, well, I'm not picking the Amazon or the fighter. I'm picking one of the magic using characters, or even the ranger. I guess would have been okay, but at that point, I had never really used the mage before, and I actually kind of like him.
Yeah, I stuck with the Amazon, and I did have a secondary ranger, but those were the only 2 characters I can remember playing. And I believe my husband played the fighter when we tried to play together, and he got about 5 hours into it and was like, yeah, I'm done with this game. So
if you don't like the loop, it's probably one of the most painful experiences you could ever put someone through.
Yeah.
And there's like And there's a lot of maintenance too between levels. You're not just kind of jumping right in. You have to go to the inn, you have to go to the church, bury all the bones you got. You have to go to Morgan's magic shop to repair your stuff and sell stuff. So like there's this kind of laundry list of things you have to do between each level. And it really sounds like we're not selling the game very well. It's the actual, like, it speaks to how fun the game is when you're actually fighting and doing stuff, that you're willing to kind of
put up with all that other stuff.
You know, put up with all the rest.
Hope you get loot upgrades every time and failing miserably usually. Problem with the randomized loot system that is Diablo is that you never quite know what you're going to get if it'll be an upgrade.
That's right.
Yeah. And if it runs into that problem too, just talking about all the problems with this game, it runs into that problem too where even if you do get S-level loot, it's not going to be that long before you get something new that outclasses it anyway. So, you know, at least early in the game. I don't know, Kelly, later in the game, do you keep your items longer?
Yes, just because it just seems like there's a sheer amount of garbage out there. So trying to find an upgrade at that point, because you're already at max level, you're not going to find anything too much higher than what you have.
Yeah.
So it does even out, but it takes a while for sure.
Yeah, that level 99 cap that's... Boy, it should have been like 50 or 60 or something like
it's
that.
quite a grind near the end for sure. Because
right?
you gain levels pretty easily in the beginning, but...
In the beginning,
Plus, in the beginning, it's more fun because you're unlocking new dungeons and unlocking new routes and everything else. But by the end there, you're in those dungeons over and over and over again, and you already know where to click to get to the secret room and everything else. So you kind of run out of steam before you hit that max level cap. Then the other thing, of course, when you talk about Dragon's Crown, you kind of have to bring up is the controversy that came up back when the game was released. The artwork was... I always thought it was beautiful. I thought it was going for an aesthetic, and it stuck with it. But some people, you look at the sorceress, and she has very, very huge assets. And then you take a look at the Amazon, and she's showing her all. So I never found...
And the Amazon walks everywhere ass first. Yeah. Every time she enters a room, it's ass first. Every time she walks in.
And honestly, I never had any issue with the art style. I thought they went with an aesthetic and they kept it throughout the entire game. I actually have the pre-order art book because I did pre-order the PS3 version, and I was flipping through it even today, and the guys are still muscle upon muscle upon muscle, and the girls are all in the same type of style. You had the cute little fairies, but it all matched together. It wasn't like the Amazon looked out of place with the other characters, at least to me. Same thing with the sorcerer. Paul, your take on this one?
Well, I mean, my take is that talking about it could get me in trouble, right? It's a very complex and nuanced discussion, right? Because it's not just the sorceress and the Amazon. It's also a lot of the artwork in between levels, like Morgan's magic shop. Yeah, Morgan, you know, it must be really hot in there. Is like maybe she should get some air conditioning. I don't know. I'm just saying. Or like, there's one level where you have to help out some nuns or something like that, warrior nuns, and the warrior nun that you're helping, she's wounded, and she's like lying down and her legs are spread wide open, and it's really like it's pretty, you know, it's pretty aggressive in its, I guess, eroticism, I guess, if you want to call it that. So I can understand why people might have some gripes with it, but at the same time, like, you know, I don't know, man, it's pretty harmless overall. Like, the thing is, the question I have is who are we hurting, right? Like, there will be a segment of the population, men and women, but mostly women, who will look at it and be like, nah, this is kind of exploitative and it's not for me. And that's fine. But erotic art has been around forever. And it's really kind of no different to me than, you know, my wife and I, we watch The Bachelor, for example, right? And a lot of the seasons of The Bachelorette, there are a lot of scenes where the guys are taking off their clothes and the Bachelorette's like touching them and the whole thing. And I don't really care about that either. You know, people like looking at other pretty people. So I don't know. I guess I'm meandering a little bit. Arnie, do you want to rescue me?
I mean, listen, I tried to get other opinions on it because I was like, maybe I'm crazy for like, you know,
oh, what a
like,
good
maybe
idea.
I'm just a fucking idiot. And so I showed a couple people, like, I was like, look at this art. This is what like the game looks like. Like, what do you think? And the thing I sort of came away with from the conversation is, one, I think the art is somewhat objectionable in the way that I think any sort of art that goes in this direction tends to be. Like, you're never going to get something that everybody likes. And there's obviously, like you said, Paul, there's some exploitative sort of tones that you get on some of it, especially the more egregious aspects of it. But I think for me, the end all be all, as far as like what I think when I boil it down, is that like, yes, this is probably somewhat problematic. And yes, there's definitely, people have a right to express that they feel that way. But I don't necessarily think that makes something not fun or not, you know, it doesn't matter that something is problematic necessarily in the sense that you should not enjoy it because it is so, right? Like, I think there's still a game here that is very fun and very enjoyable, and people play it and they like it. And, you know, if it comes down to that, you know, where you play this game, whether you enjoy the art style, you don't enjoy the art style, but you like the game and you like playing it, keep playing it, you know? There's nothing... At this point, the game's been out for how long? You know, like...
Yeah, I don't know. And also, like, we're just kind of... It's one of those things where I'm also wondering, like, what exactly are we outraged with here? Like, and this is just like... And this is a much larger discussion, but like, and I think I mentioned this to you guys, we were just chatting about something like this yesterday. You know, we have no problem with very, very graphic and realistic depictions of violence in movies and video games for that matter. And, you know, we slap a rated R on it and call it a day. We don't think twice about it. But in a movie, I think the words I used were, if a penis touches anything but the air around it, then it just becomes rated X. Like, right off the bat. It's like, whoa, nobody can see this, nobody can see that. And I'm like, really? Like, you're telling me that graphic violence is worse than something that is pleasurable to everybody, that we all do or aspire to do? Like, I don't know, man. It just seems like a misplacement of priorities. And, you know, and then you take that back to Dragon's Crown, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't see why we're in such a tizzy over it.
I think it's a question of context, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. Go ahead.
I just, when I look at this art style, I think more of like Renaissance, that type of era, and it just... Maybe I've just become desensitized and don't care anymore, but it's just like, I look at it, it's like, hey, at least she has muscle. She's not like, the Amazon has a bunch of muscle. She's strong. She's going out there and kicking ass. She's not some damsel in distress, at least. She's not a little thin stick. Someone could actually get muscle. Yeah, not exactly that muscle, but they can aspire to have muscle. They shouldn't be aspired to being a stick twig, so.
Yeah.
They do fight. Yeah. Like they're not. I think it's more problematic when they take the women and place them in, you know, subservient and pointless roles. I mean, at the very least, they fight. They look, you know, hot while doing it. I have no better word, but at least they do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think it's a question of context, right? Like, what context is this sort of art being used for? I think Kelly makes a great point that, like, the women are active, strong, taking charge. Like, you know, you use them and they fucking serve that role for the player. But like I said, like, it's just a matter of, I think it's, you know, art's not going to be for everybody. And like, I think there is something to be said about a culture that like values specific traits, right? And like exploits specific aspects of physicality and sexuality, you know, to use in like a negative way. And obviously everyone's experiences with things like this are different because we don't all have the same circumstances or the same, you know, we don't all grow up in the same way, right? So like me as a gamer, like, and this is not necessarily meant to be spun as a positive, like I've seen shit like this before, right? Like, you know, like I place it in a specific context. Somebody who doesn't have as much experience with things like this or media of this type or art of this type sort of sees a screenshot of this flying around somewhere. And that's a little more, you know, it's hard to sort of put things in their correct perspective sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think, you know,
nobody ever complained about Baywatch. That's what I remember. I don't remember anybody ever complaining about Baywatch. It was viewed by 2 billion people on the planet Earth, and it wasn't because of the stories.
Yeah. Yep. So that was Dragon's Crown. Honestly, I enjoyed the game. Someday maybe I'll go back and revisit it, but it'll probably be a while. I'll want to forget the dungeons before I go back and revisit it for sure.
Yeah.
We'll all play it together.
Lastly, not going to spend too much time on this one because I think we all have a ton to talk about with this game, and it may spawn its own type of deal. But 13 Sentinels.
It might.
We'll see.
Yeah.
13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. Originally was supposed to be developed for the Vita. Sadly, that one got canceled.
Thankfully. It's not $300 now.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
But with 13 Sentinels, Kamitani was finally tired of fantasy worlds and said,
God damn.
Let's do
about damn time.
My goodness.
Something sci-fi.
I know. Only took them 20
years. I mean, I haven't played through all of this game yet. Is there any princess in it that I should know about that I should be looking out to knock to Princess Crown?
Not that I can think of. But the art style is definitely more Odin Sphere, less Dragon's Crown.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No question.
This game I can remember when it was announced, for sure, for the Vita, because the Vita community was all behind this. But it went silent for the longest time. For the longest time, people were like, is this game even still in development? What's going on with it? And I can remember when they actually announced and showed some gameplay for this game, some people were up in arms. They're like, this looks like a visual novel. What's going on? Is it? Are we having Is it an RPG? Is it supposed to be? Is this even Vanillaware? What's going on? So part visual novel, I guess, and part a real-time strategy. The RTS, basically, they took what they learned from Grimoire and expanded and made it a lot more 3D and a lot more complicated from what I've played for it, at least. I need to get back and finish this game for sure. What I did play of it, I loved. 13 different characters. I really want to see how this game turns out in the end. But Paul, I know you've played this game. What did you think of it overall?
Oh yeah, no, this is my favorite game of the last like 5 years, honestly. It was, you're right, it's like 80-20 visual novel RTS, but yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on it, so there's really not too much value in me getting in too far into it. But it's a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's really just kind of the way the story is revealed. There are tons of games and movies and TV shows that reveal the answer to one question and then pose 2 more, right? I'm thinking about Lost, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever seen a piece of media that does it in a way where you can pick the order that it happens in and still have it deliver that kind of experience. The way Kamitani structured the story so that the player can choose which way they want to go and yet still have that kind of, oh my God moment with every scene that comes up without necessarily spoiling the rest. It's masterful. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And yeah, I have all day for 13 Sentinels. What a weird departure of form for Vanillaware, like, compared to what they were making before. But yeah, I mean, critically, it was well loved.
Yeah, trying to find copies of it for a while was kind of ridiculous. And anyone who didn't buy it over the holidays when it was $20, I feel kind of sad for you. But the Switch version should be coming out soon as well, so make sure to pick that up when it's fresh. So, and Arnie, have you played through this one?
I beat it. Yes, I loved it. It's one of those. I went into because Paul had talked to me about it beforehand, and he was very excited about it, and so I was like, "This is worth trying." But immediately when I started it, I was like, "I don't know if this is for me." Because this isn't usually the type of game I get into. Especially when, not to spoil what we'll eventually talk about on the episode, but especially when you get to the combat and you're like, this is not the best part of this game. So then you're sort of like, yeah, I guess the visual novel is what I gotta stick with. And to be fair, it delivers. It's a very compelling story. The characters are great for the most part, not without their own controversies, which I'm sure we'll talk about in due course in time. But yeah, no, I think Kamitani did a great job, and Vanillaware did a great job of creating a fucking fantastic world, populating it with very endearing and memorable characters. And like Paul said, just delivering a story that, even though it's fragmented and you get to sort of pick and choose how you put the puzzle back together, still sort of gives everyone a very similar experience in terms of the twists and turns that come with it. Yeah, no. Everybody who hasn't played it should play it. If you haven't bought it yet, buy it on the Switch. Yeah, it's disappears, and then Black Friday comes around and Best Buy is like, oh, here's 10,000 copies of 13 Sentinels we forgot about somewhere for $20.
Yeah.
It's so
but
weird.
Without the pre-order art book. But
yes, without the pre-order art book, and without my Princess Crown DLC.
Yeah, we need that.
I know, right?
We need to riot for that. So, yeah. So, but this game seems like one that
they're gonna put it on the Switch version, so we have to buy that one too.
Oh, I'll be buying it. I have 2 copies of every single one of Vanillaware's games, so something tells me I'll end up with the Switch version as well.
I will definitely end up with the Switch version. I never buy the same game twice, except this game's amazing and I don't give a shit.
I think they just announced pre-order bonuses too, so we better go take a look at that one.
They sure did. Yeah, no, I'm on
Oh,
that.
you're on top of that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely seems like this is one I have to finish up so I can be on that episode when it does happen. But looks like this is the finale of our look at Vanillaware. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. We appreciate you. Find us on Linktree, Region Free Gamers. Patrons, we love you, and we will see you guys next time.